Wait. Just a quick one. You said where they were praying. They were praying on their beds. My wife was in Wesley Girls. I have friends who are in Wesley Girls, and they will report you for praying on your bed, like praying on your bed. It is my bed.
Hi, my name is Joseph Borti Naipens. I attended Additional College.
My name is Abdul Hadi Chiwesin. I am a nationalist and a youth activist.
My name is Richard. I work in the democracy and governance space.
Hi, my name is Kojo Kwanzaa. I went to a mission school and currently I'm into many things, but I'm here as a patriotic citizen.
Hi, I'm Samuel Kwepepe. I'm a missionary and a youth pastor.
My name is Alan McNair Hemming.
Today our topic is as to whether or not Wesley Girls Senior High School should lose its identity and to allow Muslim girls to practice Islam in their schools.
For today's conversation, I'm looking forward to hearing from the other side why Wesley Girls has a reasonable reason for limiting the rights of not only Muslim students but other students who are not of the Methodist faith.
And I'm in full support of that. I believe it is well within their rights to protect their religious identity and traditions because the Constitution guarantees it, and because it is not only individuals that have rights, institutions or legal persons also have rights.
Welcome back to Banta. Today, we are discussing the Wesley Girls controversy involving Muslim students. When tradition clashes with religious freedom, where should the line be drawn? Let's get into it. Mission School has the right to protect its religious identity and traditions. Mission School has the right to protect its religious identity and traditions.
Yes, a mission school has the right to protect its religious identity. Now, I say so because each of these schools we tag as mission schools were started by churches. And each of these churches have their own values that they want to instill in people, which of course are good values. Now, to be able to keep those values instilled in people, which of course over the years have attracted other people who may not even belong to the same religious groups to have attended such schools. Now, these values are what make them the schools they are. To allow all other practices to come in would be changing the tradition of the schools and what has contributed to their attractiveness over the years, leading to people coming to the schools. That is my point.
Additionally, I think that some of these mission schools existed long before the state even got involved and started to support them. And so they started with the foundation of training people in their faith, whether Islam or Christianity. And the fact that they get government support does not deplete or does not preclude them from continuing to do that. Now, they have the right, their right is constitutionally guaranteed, and they have the right to project their religion and to practice it. Not only individuals have these rights, institutions also have these rights. So, protecting their identity, their religious identity and traditions is a legitimate exercise of their constitutional rights and not discrimination. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of obvious if you look at it that the school is named Wesley Ground. So, most definitely, they believe in the Christian values. Okay, the Wesleyan Church upholds Christian values, and so if they have decided to give it put that name or tag on the school in the first place, then I believe they did that because they want to enforce or instill such Christian values into the students that pass through the school.
Yeah, for me, I make no belief of an institution overrides the constitution, and the Constitution allows for free practice of religion for everyone. Where there's supposed to be a limitation, there should be a reasonable reason that amounts to a limitation. And I don't think any of these schools have been able to prove that there's a reasonable reason why any student should have their religious rights limited.
Additionally, I think the very basic reason why we want to attend schools is for education. Religion is a secondary issue when students are or parents are selecting schools for their kids and whatever. So we shouldn't limit the essence of schools just to the religious nature or the background from which these schools were built. And mind you, these schools were not just built by the missionaries. If you look at case point at Isadora College, it was built by not just the Anglicans.
First of all, the Constitution recognizes that this is universal, this is fundamental, everybody must enjoy it. The Constitution also creates that avenue where in the exercise of these rights, you must respect the rights of other people. I think that is what this conversation really is about. It is not about whether the school can uphold its values. The school has every right under the Constitution to do that. But the moment where other people are not given the opportunity to practice their religion, then discrimination comes in. And that is a part of the conversation that the proponents have refused to speak about.
Okay, so you said picking schools based on religion is kind of a secondary reason. Parents saying what's the school, and I believe that's first because the religion itself is kind of a way of life. Okay, we all live. Islam is how someone can identify himself, and that is how he lives his daily life. Same with Christianity. So parents, I think, actually look into the kind of beliefs or practices that the school enforces or upholds when choosing schools for their wards.
Okay, I'm not saying that it is not the reason. I'm saying it's a secondary reason. Point being, I went to National College. I am Presbyterian. When I was selecting my schools, my parents were more focused on the academics of the school, the culture of the school. Culture not being the religious culture, culture being the holistic training, which encompasses religion in itself. But then again, the point is, the basic thing is education. If the school is performing, mind you, he went to Infancy School, he went to TRMS. I don't think his parents really considered the religion of the school. They consider Infancy doing an excellent job at making sure that their award passes his WASI examinations. So to reduce the value of the school just to the mission that built the school is not something we should be wading into. We should look at what the school turns out. And mind you, there are so many products from the school that are not even from the Methodist Church or from the Anglican Church. They are from diverse religions. You get the point I'm trying to make.
No, it's interesting how this conversation has led to a whole lot of things. I mean, this whole topic of Wesley Girls and all of that. Come to think of it, there are so many Islamic schools that clearly do not allow Christians to operate. There's no church there at all. I can mention a number of them. Al-Farouk College of Education is one of them. Christian students are forced to put on, the ladies forced to put on the veil and all of that. So and that is not because the Muslims believe that we have to push the tradition of the Islamic faith. And so if we are talking about the rights of the individual students being allowed to practice Islam in a Wesley school, what about the case where Islamic schools are not allowing Christians to practice Christianity in the schools? It is with the same understanding that we want to protect and preserve the Islamic tradition.
Well, I think you have answered the question, or what we have said answered the question. If you are a Christian in an Islamic school and your rights are being curtailed, it's unconstitutional. It doesn't care whether you are a traditionalist or a Hindu or a Anglican going to whatever school it is. The mere fact that the person is in a school, most possibly being assisted by the state, by state funds, what is the reasonable limit, or what's the reasonable occurrence why such a student's right has to be limited? Why is a Christian?
Let me attempt an answer to that. You asked what is reasonable.
Yeah.
Botti made a point and said that the reason why some of these schools are so popular and parents want to send their children to these schools is because of their culture and the rules and the discipline. Now, one, these rules and the culture and the discipline flow from the faith. That's one. Two, these schools operate a regimented system and a schedule. And so for some of these other religions to be able to successfully exercise their rights, for instance, a Christian going to a Muslim school, they would have to operate outside the schedule of the school. And it is not unreasonable to limit students from doing those things. For instance, some people pray up do alpha-hour prayers at 12 midnight. Charismatics, they have the legitimate right to pray in the night. Should we say that because they go to a secondary school, it's lights out at 12, they should be allowed to wake up and pray at 12 at night? No, I don't think so. In the same way, when Muslims go to Christian schools, Muslims pray at 4, the first prayer is at 4 something, right? If for something it's time for you to sleep, or if it's light out, you should not expect the school to break the rules for me. And that's the discipline some of these mission schools are trying to enforce. It's as simple as that. I feel this matter is not really a religious matter, but it's simply a discipline matter, and the rules and the culture matter.
Just a quick one. Then you are making two counter arguments. You seem to make it look as if these Christian schools or the Christian religion is the only one that has discipline. But even in the Islamic faith, in the traditional faith, there are rules there that instill discipline. So, let me land. So, if these institutions, or we are saying that, okay, in an Islamic school, because in Islamic schools, there's discipline in that school.
Yes.
In Christian schools, there's discipline. When I look at persons who practice the African traditional religion, they are also disciplined people. So there's discipline passing across. It is then the duty of whoever the school authorities is to create a regimented program where people are able to practice their faith. And I was in a Methodist school. We had Christians there of different sects. We had Muslims there. School schedule, which is first of all an educational institution, ran. Muslims were in class on Friday times. It is not compulsory. Their religion doesn't make it compulsory that if you have something doing, you have to stop everything. So imagine if a Muslim and he has a flight on a Friday, it doesn't mean that all across the world Muslims don't fly on Friday because that's the time that they are supposed to be in the mosque to pray. No, you can do other things, and it allows that as and when you can do whatever you need to do, you're able to do it. So it's kind of making it look as if we can't create a regimented system where everyone is able to practice their religion, but the core aim of the school, which is the educational part, it goes on. It's not realistic. And you also seem to create this thing that makes it look as if whenever you're in a society where the majority of society wants to do something, then the society is ordered. But the moment the minority also want to enjoy the same rights that the majority claim that they recognize, then all of a sudden we begin that society is becoming
disorderly.
Let me advise on two points now. First of all, you talk about Islam. I don't know how much you know, but you talk about Islam. You mentioned Al-Furqan. You said many schools, but you mentioned just one. I went to an Islamic school. I also went to a mission school. So this conversation is very much personal to me as it is to everybody. And I want to talk about the system in the school. You talk about prayer times and light outs. I think that we should all be informed before we talk about this thing. Because then you don't really know the prayer times of Muslims. Muslims pray 25 times a day. And let me just say that we are trying to protect religious values. Islam is founded on 5 pillars. The first one is to believe in God, in Allah. The second one is observance of prayer. It is very, very important. And the moment nobody seems to recognize the value Muslims attached to prayers,
I think we missed the whole point. So back to the point you made about Muslims forcing people. In fact, in Islam, acquisition of knowledge is compulsory, and I'm using knowledge in a very literal sense, not even in a religious sense, because we have tarbiyah, that is moral education, that's where you go into the Islamic teachings, and we have acquisition of knowledge in the secular sense, because the Holy Prophet of Islam has once mentioned that Muslims should seek knowledge even if it is in China. So we need to get that clear, that Islam does not make things compulsory. In fact, the Quran says there's no compulsion in religion. So it's even false that you want that knowledge. If the school is doing something, my brother has mentioned, there are state authorities that must intervene, and the constitution is actually one of them. Now back to the point you make about prayers. Prayer times are scheduled in a way that is very convenient. My brother talks about the flight on Friday. In fact, you can pray on your way. So I pray in the car when I'm traveling. Prayer times are scheduled such that the first prayer is around 5. At 5, everybody is getting ready for class. That is very practical. We want to say just at 5, everybody's sleeping at 5. So if I'm using 5 minutes to pray, it doesn't affect anybody. I pray at 1. At 1, we are usually on lunch. Go back to class by 1:45. Within that period, I'm using 5 minutes to pray. It doesn't change anything. Within that 5 minutes, you can be talking to your friend, doing whatever you want to do. The next prayer is around 3. Class ends around 3:30 before mayhem. And I can pray at 4. I can combine these two prayers. There's the 1 and then the 3. So when we talk about the school system without understanding what Islam actually presents for prayer schedules, then you miss the point. 6.
The point is, I just want to chip in this. I don't know for everybody else here, but in Adesanya College, as part of our matriculation, we're given this unified code of conduct by GS. And that is the code of conduct that's applicable to all students. It's not even what the Anglican Church says. The Anglican Church is they have a board of directors, and as well as they said in law, we know what the board does, we know what the management of the school is. The management of the school is the headmaster academic, headmaster domestic. They are the ones managing the school. Probably the headmaster may be an Anglican, but the two others, they don't necessarily have to be Anglicans. They can be from any other denomination. And they are in charge of the day-to-day administration of the school. So when it comes to the running of the school, all other sects can be in there without having to go contrary to the school's fundamental principles. For example, all these church services, hymnal practices, they are school functions. You have to be there. We are not saying that Muslims or other sects should be excluded from the practice of going for mass, a Catholic mass in the school, or going for a Methodist prayer session in the school.
But that's one of the beliefs of the kids, which has brought us together. That one of the beliefs that we're seeking is that Muslims should not be forced to go for school functions. That yes.
What school functions?
Even as a Christian,
I'm saying school functions because you mentioned that attending mass, going for assembly and Christian services are school functions. And that's one of the beliefs he's seeking. And that's what some of us find to be problematic. Because to what extent can you enforce this? There are so many religions in the world, over 10,000 religions in the world. Anyone at any point in time can claim that they are a member of any religion. Any students, because there's freedom of religion, and they can go to school and they can say that I'm not going to attend church service, assembly, because you practice the Christian religion or the Islam religion. The argument that I'm making is not against any religion. It's not against Islam or against Christianity or against Methodism or whatever. I want us to look at it from a very pragmatic perspective. Is this pragmatic? Is it practical to open things up and say that everyone can do whatever they want at any point in time at all? My submission is it's not.
Thank you very much.
A school that receives public funds is expected to accommodate all religious groups and not just one. A school that receives public funds is expected to accommodate all religious groups and not just one.
Well, I find it ironic that they have joined us in this. But yes, as far back as 1962, when the Educational Act was being passed, when you look at the arguments in the Hansard, even back then when we say Ghana was a more conservative society, our parliamentarians then understood that if you are taking state funding, then you should be accommodating of all persons. And the logic is simple. Muslims, traditionalists, or other religions contribute to whatever money is being given to schools. And then if we have accepted that Ghana is a democratic secular state, then we should see that in the manifestations of its institutions.
I think it's pretty clear that so far as I was using public funds or state funds, then the manifesto of the religion shouldn't really matter. For example, this year's science and maths quiz, in fact, we have three contestants, the winners, the eventual winners. Two of them are Muslims, Tijani and Mohammed. I will now come to say that, in fact, when it was a Wesleyan school, and when it's time for them to perform in co-curricular and extracurricular activities, we are saying that, oh, it's open to all. No. That is even clear that regardless of the foundation of the school, now, so far as I'm thinking public funding, the school is open to all. And the public funding is not just for the pantry or the day-to-day administration of the school, but as well as teachers. Teachers that are coming to the school are not just Wesleyan teachers. They have teachers from different denominations as well. And these funds also help not just in the pantry or the day-to-day running of the school, but in co-curricular activities, extracurricular activities like the science and maths quiz, sports, and the
All right, so I just want to state first of all that Ghana, as we find it, has not always existed. It took a lot of effort to put it in this structure. Ghana used to exist, we used to exist in ethnic groups, we used to exist as separate bodies. It took the coming of colonial masters to put us in this administrative setup. And then when the colonial masters were running the country, there was a time where they had to introduce laws, particularly the current education system that we run. Formal education did not exist. We had our own informal traditional education. So education has been in Ghana, but it hasn't always looked like this. Now, in 1887, when the education ordinance was introduced, mission schools in particular had to apply for state funds or for financial aid from the state. There were conditions, and one of the conditions was that you could not instruct any child to practice any religion that their parents object to. So it is very important for us to understand that by the acceptance of the state funds we had, and when I say we, I'm using it in the sense of the schools, had more or less appeased some of their rights. The moment you take it, then you can't have that autonomy you believe you have. You are supposed to accommodate other people, and you are supposed to ensure that so long as the child does not identify with what you practice and is going to be in your school, with the objection of the parents, you have no rights. And you should understand that the relationship between the parents and then the school is more like an agency. The school becomes agents of the parents. So let's get that clear.
Yes, you have to define what you mean by accommodate. Now, accommodating, Wesley Girls has been accommodating Muslims and people from different religious backgrounds for all this while. They have been accommodating. Now, what do I mean by that? The fact that as a Wesley school, they demand that, well, you have come to this school at this particular point in time, you have to be here. At that particular point in time, you have to be there. Now, you mentioned earlier that because of the beliefs of the Islamic faith and prayer times, we are just making a general assumption because each school has its own time schedule for various activities. Now, if at a particular point in time, the school demands that students have to be maybe in a dining hall, usually you're a Muslim, you are fasting, and so you don't have, the school demands that even if you are not eating, just be at the dining hall, but you say no, it is time for prayer, so I want to go and pray. Gradually, what you are doing is that the school accommodating you means that they are allowing you to benefit from all the educational, knowledge they are imparting. That is what accommodating means. It doesn't mean that you are going to be allowed to practice
your religion in the particular school you are attending. If somebody is a traditionalist and decides that, okay, I want to bring a shrine to the school because that's my religion, how will the school then end up to?
Since you mentioned my name, let me take the opportunity to respond. Now, first of all, I didn't even talk about fasting. So I would appreciate if you argue my point without making specifics. I didn't talk about fasting, but I just want to make this point clear that I spoke about prayer times, and the school demanding you to be at a certain place at a particular time has nothing to do with prayers. I didn't talk about insisting going to pray when it is time for dining. I recognize these school functions. That is why I said that. I mentioned specific times and the things that happen, and I believe that all of us in an educational experience could share in that. Now, I talk about the fact that we can combine prayers. So if the system does not enable you to do that, Islam is very, very liberal. If at that particular time it can't be practical, you can. I've had to write exams when it was time for me to break my fast. I didn't leave the hall. I waited and broke my fast. Nothing happened. I've had to go to class on Friday. I didn't insist that I had to be. I've written exams on Friday. So I think then the issue about shrine, we shouldn't blow it out of proportion. I mean, what is a shrine?
So it's not
Let me begin. Okay, let me first begin by stating my position. I agree that government-funded schools should accommodate people of all religions, and I think in our country that's what's happening with all government-funded schools. Like you said, what does accommodate mean? School is for learning and for studies. So if you have the privilege to be admitted to the school, despite your religion or whatever, then I think you should be privileged and you should focus on your education. Now, in respect to the religious aspect, my friend, it will interest you to know that I also went to Fansfield School, you see. But I'm a Pentecostal. I went to Fansfield School as a Pentecostal. We wanted to establish Pensa. There were so many Pensa Pentecostal students there. But there was no Pensa at the time. I don't know if your time there was Pensa. There was no Pensa at the time, and they said they would not allow us. But we did not take them to court and say that we should accommodate us, allow us to establish Pensa in Fansfield School. You are discriminating against us. No, I feel that's just not the right way to go about things. If you feel that you want a space, you should be accommodated so that you can publicly practice your religion. Dialogue should be the way. Dialogue with the school authorities and give cogent reasons why they should accommodate you, give their space and all that. I learned later on, now Pensa has been established over years of negotiations, you understand? So I believe everyone should be able to practice their religion privately. But if you need a public space, it should be subject to certain restrictions. There should be supervision. There should be basically what is being taught should not be against the principles of the school and also the principles of the religion. Because, like I said, there are different religions. Satanism, for instance, is a religion. But I think Satanism is opposed to Islam and is opposed to Christianity. But it's a religion. Should Satanists now be free to operate in a mission school? You understand? So some of these things, they are not black and white. There are many shades in between. So I think we should just balance.
The whole point is that, I also agree that schools function the government to allow every religion. But the whole point is that in Ghana, the government recognizes three religions, like Christianity, Islam, and the traditional. So if you are going into a school, knowing the school is tagged this way, or the school has been branded as like a mission school or an Islamic school, you should know what to expect. No one should come and tell you that it's an Islamic school, so when you go, you wear hijab or something. No, you should know what you are going in for. So if going into a Christian school or an Islamic school is against your personal beliefs and you feel it's something you cannot practice, for instance, if I'm to go to an Islamic school and they tell me to maybe pray 5 times a day, which I cannot do, and I know I'm a Christian, no one is forcing me to go to Ahmadiyya. So if you know that this school is a Christian, just don't choose that school or don't go. Yeah, we know the education is quite good, but if you know going there is going to infringe on your religious rights, I just feel that.
And just to chip this in, this same Wesley Girls Senior High School in question we are discussing today, I mean, every one of these Muslim students who are claiming their rights and all of that had to sign a form. And the first condition in the form says that I have read and I have understood that this school is a Wesleyan school and that you are going to succumb to all the practices of the Wesleyan church. And you agree, signed by parents and the students.
I want to ask you a question based on what you just said. Do you think that one can just give away their fundamental human rights just because they signed a document?
Nobody is asking anybody to give away their fundamental human rights.
Okay.
So that is not a question to begin with.
No, but the point is that if I have a right to practice my religion, and you are saying that just because I signed,
the schools are not taking away the rights of their students to practice their religion. You can practice your religion privately.
I'm coming.
I think I mentioned that we should speak from a very informed position. Yes. This conversation, in fact, I want to make we are not the first to have this conversation. Mm-hmm. And this thing, now the reason why they are in court, Shafiq is in court, issues led to this thing. There were students who were denied the right to fast. And you would be interested to know that I learned that in Wesley Girls, they actually have people who report Muslims who pray. So it is false to say that nobody is preventing. I think we should let them respond very, very clear on that. Let me conclude that it is false to make that assertion. Now you talk about accommodation. I earlier mentioned the way Muslims. Do you know how Muslims pray? Yes, exactly. If Muslims have to pray, the afternoon prayer is silent because one nuisance. Because we recite. Afternoon prayers are silent just to curb this thing so that you won't disturb the next person. So I can be behind you praying and you wouldn't even notice unless maybe you see my movement. Let us understand that and not throw things around. We should speak from informed.
Just to correct that, if you say afternoon prayers are silent, I don't think that is the case. For every one of your prayer times, there's somebody who makes an alarm to alert everyone that it is time for prayer, and that is not silence. You see, and besides,
it's not a prayer.
Okay, but it's part of the prayer.
To respond to Hadi's points. Now, I want us to take this conversation away from Islam or whatever. I feel this is not a Muslim Christian matter. Every student is supposed to go for dining. They're supposed to be in the dining hall. Whether you are a Christian and in the beginning of the year you are doing a 21-day fast or you are doing a 40-day fast, no one cares. You are supposed to be in dining and eat.
The Constitution.
In the same. No. You see, that's why I always say that these rights are not limitless. The Constitution, you see, the rights is not even about the religion. It's about the school rules. He mentioned reasonability. Under certain circumstances, when it is reasonable, some of these rights can be limited. It is reasonable to say that every student should come to the dining hall and eat, so that we are not malnourished. The reason all of this is happening is when we allowed it for some time, some of the students became anemic and they became sick. So every religion fasts. It's not just about Islam.
You see, I'm coming. We keep intruding into
the point from prayer. If someone is praying silently, praying at the time and at the place they are supposed to be praying, I don't think anyone will have a problem with it. But you see, the reason why someone may report someone for praying is because probably when they were praying obstructed someone or something like that. I don't know.
Yes, then I don't know because then I'm saying that the case was triggered by certain facts. So if you are not speaking on those facts, then
okay. Can you? Just a quick one. You said where they were praying on their beds. My wife was in Wesley Girls. I have friends who are Wesley Girls, and they will report you for praying on your bed, like praying on your bed. It is my bed. I'm calling back because your side keeps intruding when I'm talking. First, you said something about bringing shrines into schools. You know, again, I thought something very funny about this whole conversation is that African traditional religion is always used as this kind of boogeyman whenever we are talking about rights of religious minorities. Nobody seems to really care about African traditional religion until the moment that maybe Muslims start talking about this and like, okay, so what if African traditional people want to do this? What if they want to do this? What if they want to do it? You say Satanist, you say Ekanka, what everyone. Then if that is the problem, I'm coming. You said 10,000, there are 10,000 religions. So then the point is that if our issue is that opening the floodgates to religions is going to be the issue, we should do it just like the universities do it, where there is absolutely no recognition of any religion. So you go to school, Sundays, there won't be any church service for anyone. Nobody's practicing their religion anywhere on campus. Everyone, this is an educational facility, and all we do here is education. But it is not realistic, because as human beings, religion is an important part of our everyday living. And we recognize that as a society, and that is why we say that Christians should pray on Sundays. And that is also why some of us who believe that Ghana is a democratic secular state, and for governance purposes, we must protect this aspect of the state, say that if Christians are able to practice their faith, and there isn't any disorderliness in the educational sense of the school, the same way that people sat down and said that, okay, Christians will pray at this time and this is what they are going to do, these same people can sit down and say that, okay, if Christians are praying at this time, we can ensure that at that same time Muslims pray at this time, because first and foremost, this is an educational facility. The essence of this place is education. So you can't go and pray whilst your friends are in class, or you can't go and pray whilst your friends are eating. But this is the time that you have allocated that if Christians are praying, Muslims are praying, Hindus are praying, Ekanka is praying, Jehovah's Witness is praying, whoever ever is praying and meeting at the same time. And we have teachers and lecturers who are supervising everyone to ensure that every single student is in where they are supposed to be at that particular time, and no student is lurching about or has broken bounds and then gone to this thing.
We agree it's for educational purposes. I think the school has branded themselves as like a Christian, like specifically let's tell you the point before you respond. It's not really the point for you to tell you the truth. Even outside, not even in educational setting, maybe in a church, you don't expect me to allow a Hindu man. Yes, the church. Yes.
That's the word opposed to oranges.
If you put that tag on yourself, that I am a Christian school, or I am you should know what to expect.
Let me chip in this. Then you can come and make your points. You see, what you are missing is that these schools are not just educational institutions.
That's the whole.
There is the bit of the religious part.
You should know what to expect.
Absolutely. Let me.
I'm just saying I agree with you.
So if you are a Muslim or wherever you are, whatever you believe in, and you decide that you want to attend this school, let it be at the back of your mind that regardless of the fact that the state is supporting the school, doesn't make the school a universal institution. No, can I land? Yes, it doesn't make it such an institution such that now you say that, okay, well, I'm a Muslim, and so because I'm a Muslim and the school was founded, supported by taxpayers' money, on grounds of that, the school, which is a Methodist school, should lose its value and practices as a Methodist school. Remember, one of the things that makes it a Methodist school is the fact that it is allowed to demand that students participate in the practices of the Methodist Church. And that is one. And again, you should keep that tradition. They should be able to also block or hinder other people from intruding with. Yes, of course.
Okay.
Let me just make into the conversation. Make it very easy for you.
Yes.
Accommodation, reasonability. Now, let's bring it back to the schools we all attended.
Yes.
Good. That's going to be very, very easy.
So that's the problem.
See, the problem is not. I don't want us to go into areas where we, as we said, need to speak to the facts. I want to explain the central region, so I will speak to the Wesley Girls problem, and our answer is in relation to Francis School, St. Augustine's College, and Adesanya College, Holy Child School, and other schools, other missionary schools within the Cape Coast municipality or metropolis. Now, in Adesanya College, right, prior to 2017, prior to 2016, Muslims were not allowed to be prefects. What has being a prefect or being a leader, if you are building a holistic student, got to do with Anglicanism? We had to push for it, and then because of that, now Muslims are being prefects. You made a point about Pensa. Pensa was not recognized in infant school for a long period. Now it's recognized in infant school. Has how broken use in infant school? No.
That's why it's a Methodist school.
Back to the point. Now, this other college on Saturdays, right? We had a period after dining right before entertainment. It was an hour period. It was for class and societies and religious denominations. If it's Saturday, maybe today is for class and societies, Gunsa, Sito, whatever we meet. The following week, Nushi, Pensa, AGCM, wherever set can meet and pray. It's not contrary to the school's rules and regulations.
Wesley Girls Senior High School does not have a right to limit a student's religious practice when the Constitution protects it. Wesley Girls Senior High School does not have a right to limit a student's religious practice when the Constitution protects it.
Yes. I agree that Wesley Girls does not have the rights. Because we talk about the Constitution, I want to talk about what the Constitution says. In Article 12, Clause 2, the Constitution says that all persons, legal and natural, would respect the rights given by the Constitution to individuals, subject to respect for other people's rights. So we need to understand the duty that Article 12 gives to citizens of the country, that we must respect the rights of the people. The policy that Muslims cannot, and this is very specific to the case in question, the Shafiq Osman versus the Board of Governors of Wesley Girls case. The policy that prevents Muslims from manifesting their religion, and a policy that makes it compulsory for Muslims to participate in religious practices that are different from theirs, is discrimination. It is actually the foundation of the Constitution. The Constitution is for everybody. The Constitution tries to create a balance where everybody can exist while respecting the rights of people. We have seen that Wesley Girls is trying to protect a certain religious rights. How can we protect the rights when that very right disrespects another one? I don't think those two exist in the Constitution.
We've already made the point that it's important that we recognize that Wesley Girls is not only attended by people from the Wesleyan faith. It's a cosmopolitan school at this point. And everybody has an input in the school. We always say, in additional parlance, we say, others have labeled, we share the glory. Ours to exploit and to art machines. The reason why my little sister, his wife, who attend, anybody else who attends Wesley Girls is because of what others have done for the school. Those others are not just Wesleyans. So to say the school has the right to curtail people's rights because of religion is a non-starter at all.
I think in Article 55 or 54, but the Constitution also forbids Parliament for passing any law that imposes any political or religious dogma on the people. And I think the intent of the framers of the Constitution is because if we want to build a nation, you will want a nation where there is this tolerance, there's this understanding, and people learn to live together. When people feel that they are being imposed upon, it leaves these spaces where religious fundamentals can take advantage of it, and then it can spark something else.
Well, first of all, Wesley Girls is not intending to deny any student of her rights. And so, well, for want of a better way of putting it, I think the question is not even something to begin with in the first place, because that is not what the school is intending to do. All the school is intending to do is to keep its identity as a Wesleyan school, allowing Muslim girls to practice Islam in a Wesleyan school
would not be, I mean, it would be changing the identity of the school as a Wesleyan school. Mind you, even though the students have their rights to their religion, the school also has its own right to identify as a religious institution, less educational, but with a religious bit of it. If you say that because they are telling the students to keep to the traditions of the school, remember, of the school, even though yes, you find tenets of the Christian faith as part of the practices of the school, their intention is not to force the students to become Christians. Nowhere else if they said that the school has forced any of those Muslim girls to become Christians. What we are saying is that this is our institution. We identify as a Wesleyan school. Should you come here, these are the things that we, as now some of you will make a case and say that, well, how about in Fancy King or the other schools that are tolerant and all, I mean, let me not use tolerant so that it looks like they are intolerant. Yes, but that is not the intention of it. They are actually intending to keep their identity as such. If you are coming there, you know that at a particular point in time, they are going to ask you to sing Methodist hymns. Don't come and say that you are Muslim, so you won't sing the hymns. If you cannot sing the hymns, then don't come to the school. It's just that simple.
All right. So I would also want to begin from taking it from the Constitution. And you see, we've heard what they said, but what they are also failing to acknowledge is that Wesley Girls is also a person. Now, in the eyes of the law, there are two different kinds of persons: legal persons and natural persons. It is not only natural persons, which are human beings or individuals who have rights. Legal persons, which includes institutions and schools for that matter, also have rights. And so it is well within the rights of Wesley Girls to also have the freedom of religion, the right to the freedom of religion. And so as an institution which was foundationally established based on their religious principles, they have the right to maintain their religious identity and traditions and also to practice it. Now, moving on from there, they have opened their doors to everyone of every religion. They are not saying that even though we are Methodists, we are taking only Methodists. No, we are supported by government. In fact, the Constitution makes it clear that no one should be discriminated against based on religion, and everyone should have the right to education. So, due to that, everyone can come to Wesley Girls. But the question is, can Wesley Girls limit the expression of the religious rights of individuals? Yes, they can. Because the expression of those rights, like I've said before, they are not limitless. They can be limited for the purposes of ensuring public order, ensuring discipline, and ensuring that the system runs. And I'm not saying this is a constitution, you understand? So like I was saying, if for instance, I don't even want to make this argument Christian-Muslim argument. If for instance, I'm a Christian, I'm a Pentecostal, and I went to a Methodist school. Pentecostal sometimes pray in the night. If I go there and I'm supposed to sleep in the night, and the school says that because of the fact that they run a system, I can't do that. I cannot say that I am suing the school because I want to pray in the night and they are not allowing me to express my religion. That right to pray in the night can be limited by the school. And I feel to some extent that's what is happening in Wesley Girls. Probably I'll come again with other points.
Okay, so I also know for a fact that some rights and responsibilities are not always enforced in like in each instance. For example, you have the freedom of movement. You can't just walk your way to a secure military base or into the residential residence. Yes, so I believe throwing around rights of religion and particular religious groups does not actually, or it's not always enforced when it comes to specific religious settings. Like the school Wesley Girls is obviously based on Christian religion. Okay, so I feel that if you want to practice your religion free, if not in the setting of Christianity, then you have to recognize the institution you are going to, whether it is solely enforced in Christian values or not. Okay, just like my friend said, we don't, the school doesn't have the right to stop you from coming into the school because you are a Muslim or you are Christian. But the whole point is that once you find yourself in that institution, you should know its rules and regulations and follow it studiously. That's
I think you are making very ironical statements because what you are doing is projecting religious identity, trying to argue the religious rights of Wesley Girls that must be respected by the students. And that is constitutionally so. But how about Wesley Girls also respecting and protecting the religious rights of the students? I think that's a side of the conversation that you are talking about. Because we mentioned the Constitution, you actually reference those provisions and the limitations. I will not dispute that. We talk about movements. We shouldn't be throwing around rights. I agree. Yeah. But this conversation is very specific. The right to freedom of religion and then the expression of your religious practices. And what this side, your side has done so far is to portray or present to us the identity of Wesley Girls and then the right to promote those values. Very much so, we agree. However, you don't seem to recognize the other part of the Constitution that gives you the responsibility of respecting other rights, and those rights are as good as the rights that Wesley Girls is protecting.
And Hadi, I'm coming just to add to Hadi's point, right? Human beings as we are, we already have the rights. That's what the Constitution says, that we already have the rights. So if an institution or another person wants to limit your rights, it is up to that person to show why they must limit your rights. So in this situation, it is up to Wesley Girls to show why they must limit the rights of students. And the reasonability, when you bring up the issue of movement, there's a reasonable reason why the movement or the right to movement of students will be curtailed. Even prisoners, when you go to prison, the fact that you murdered someone and you go to jail doesn't mean that you lose all rights. If a prisoner says that their right to free speech is curtailed, the Constitution protects their right to free speech. We shouldn't act as if because Wesley Girls or any other school has missionary origins, it means that all of a sudden, if a student enters there, they have lost all their rights, and it's now up to the school to give you a right. No, you have a right, and then the school must now show the reasonability why that right must be limited, which is why the question again, and I asked this at the beginning, is that what then is that reasonability, right? Whereby we can say that for this situation, because of A, B, C, D, E, it makes sense why we want to recognize as a school, we want to recognize only this religion. Then we can also compare it to other schools. So if there are other girls' schools, Holy Child, Moga, all the girls' schools, okay, is there something that happens in also these schools that when we look at Wesley Girls, we understand why Wesley Girls wants to limit the right of girls? Maybe if you say that, okay, they can't fast because of anemia, or we can say, okay, is this something that cuts across all women? And if it's something we say it cuts across all women, then okay, Wesley Girls is making a reasonable argument that maybe based on maybe the physiological makeup of women, if they don't get enough food to this level, then this is what is going to happen to them. Therefore, we can't allow them to fast. That is a reasonable reason for limiting rights. But if the reason is just that we have Methodist origins, so because of that, everybody must be Methodist, I'm sorry, you are not passing the reasonability test for limiting rights.
Methodist movements, by the way, just to correct that, nobody has said any of those Muslim girls should become Christian.
I've not said that. I've not said that either. No, I didn't say that. I said that if you are saying that it is a Methodist school and therefore you have to follow these things, there must be a reasonability. I'm not saying that they said they should follow because okay, then let me find myself.
Respond to these points. Now let's situate the argument in its proper context. What are the reliefs that Shafiq Osman is seeking? He's demanding for three things, if I remember correctly. I stand to be corrected. He is asking that Muslims should not be forced to go for service. he's also asking that they should be free to wear their
mentioned service.
Christian needs means service. Okay, then correct me. What's he demanding?
The first one is the policy that prevents Muslims from practicing their faith is discrimination and inconsistent with the Constitution. The second one is the policy that makes the practice of Methodism, you should put it that way, in a public school, and that's in quotation, in the public school, that policy is in contravention. That's precisely what I'm saying. That's precisely what I'm saying. For Methodist service, it's a service. That's like the whole, everyone goes.
So he's saying that they should not be forced to go for services. He's also saying that they should not be, they should be allowed to wear their hijabs. He's also saying that they should be allowed to fast. Now, for all of these points, I think I always make the argument that this is not, it's making, see, the whole argument is making it look like it's Muslims that are being targeted.
But it started from a Muslim people. Now, don't,
you let me first.
So should we narrow it down to just? Let's narrow it down to just this.
I'm not finished.
Why did you premise your conversation on Shafiq Osman? That is absolutely why it's not going to work.
Can we have justice?
I just want to make sure
Then we can.
So you see, we are making this whole thing look like what's going on in Wesley Girls is targeted against Muslims, and that's what I disagree with to some extent. You see, take all these rules in a secondary school. There should be equality and uniformity. Those are very, very important principles that would make a secondary school run. Now, if you are saying, if we Pentecostals, my church, we have say a 40-day fast at the beginning of the year, and I go to school and I say that because of that I'm not going for dining. Another person says that I'm not going for dining. Who then will go for dining? The school comes around successfully. You see, of course, we mentioned the MOE. The MOE says that if someone wants to fast, then the parents should consent and all of that. But that's also another discussion altogether. The point I'm making is there should be uniformity. You see, so it's not targeted against a particular religion. Because all religions, almost all religions, or most of the religions, even traditional religion, they fast. Two, the whole argument about the hijab thing, uniformity. How is it that every other person has their hair, they are looking all nice, they don't wear anything, and then only some group of people should be allowed to cover their head? What about if another religion comes, they say that, okay, we too, our religion, we have to walk about half naked. Our religion, we have to do this, we have to do that. There won't be any uniformity.
But then that's where the reasonability comes in. You can't just make no, you are comparing opposed origins. No, I just need to, I don't want to cut in here after me. I don't like cutting in after me. I don't like cutting in, but here I need no, because we have to make reasonable arguments. When we are talking about minority rights, this is comparing apples oranges. We are talking about covering right now, we are talking about being half nakedness. We're comparing apples oranges. Oh my God. I'm sorry. See, why is it that whenever it comes to minority rights? My question is that why
do ones who take a vow of silence? You can't be in a classroom and
so the majority never do anything I've said. The majority, they never do anything I've said. Absurdity always comes in when you're talking about the minority.
It's a whole school where they all have a vow of silence.
Do you know what? That's the whole point.
The difference in beliefs is both cause chaos. That's the whole point. The difference of beliefs is
you see, the next thing is you think that it shouldn't be forced to go for Methodist service, which is a service for the whole school. It's a Methodist. They have a network like it. Now, if you are running a Methodist school or a mission school, in fact, let's even forget about mission school. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with a friend who went to Achimota, a Muslim friend. And she was telling me that in Achimota school, their services are compulsory. You know, Achimota school is not a faith-based school, it's not a mission school. It was established by the British government. But even in Achimota school, when they are having their services, whether you are Muslim or whether you are whatever, everyone is supposed to be in that service. You understand? It ensures discipline, it ensures uniformity and equality. I understand there can be accommodations made for Muslims to probably get them a classroom somewhere 30 minutes where all class and societies are meeting. They can also meet. I think that's reasonable. But to say that they should not come for service, I respectfully I don't agree. Because at a certain point in time, everyone should be in that service.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah.
So I think this conversation should balance. And the last one was on the prayer bit. On the prayer bit, my position is that if the person is praying and is not obstructing anybody, like you said, praying on their bed or something, I don't see anything wrong with that. Everyone should be able to pray. You understand? But there are situations where sometimes your prayer can obstruct someone. People have seen that goes. No, I'm saying that I'm speaking in general terms. That there are situations, for instance, it's Islamic prayers, for instance. There are situations, for instance, when I was in level 100, I had a roommate who sometimes would lay his mat in front of the wardrobes. Yeah, the wardrobes on the doorway and then pray. And sometimes I didn't have a problem with it. Very good friend of mine, great person. But I see sometimes someone may be in a hurry, would want to go somewhere and all that, but would have to wait for you to finish. But I see in a secondary school, you cannot do that. Because in a secondary school, everything is time bound. You don't have the luxury of time. It's not like the university where you can decide to go to lectures, you don't have to go on time and all of that. In secondary school, you can be punished for missing certain things. So if people are not obstructing, you see, and rights are always are not limited. Once you are exercising your rights, you should also make sure that you are not infringing on the rights of another. If you obstruct someone, you are obstructing the right of movement. You understand? So all of these issues treated in the proper context. And we shouldn't make it look like some people are being targeted. If some people are indeed being targeted, then I feel the authorities should have a discussion on it and dialogue on it and see how best they can rectify. But I don't think that the legal action is the best.
Just a quick one. Before we sat down, I think the prompt was targeted. It said Wesley Girls. So when you said people are not targeted, or we shouldn't make it look like people are targeted, I think you didn't hear the prompt, because the prompt puts your response in a particular context. But
right. The point is very simple. Every other school in the region has the blueprint. Wesley M, Addis-Ababa College, Infant Spring School, St. Augustine's College, Holy Child School, and these are faith-based or
origin schools.
Right. They acknowledge that our students are not all Catholics or Anglicans or Methodists. They are from different homes. Even in Addis-Ababa, when you sign the matriculation form, you indicate your sect. Now, what I think everybody else here is saying, I don't want to situate it in relation to the traffic matter. What everybody else is saying is that, Wesley Girls, why only? Why can't you take the blueprint from other schools? Because you cannot tell me that from 4:45 or from 4:30 a.m. when they wake up till they go to bed at 9 p.m. or whatever, there's a regimented time and the students don't even have 10 minutes to themselves. There's a period where the students can also have time to themselves. So also do one or two things. And they also have clubs and societies in the school. They have GUMSA, they have SITO, they have recognized clubs and societies. But you are failing to recognize other religious sects. And as you said, there's Spencer in your school, there's Nuchi in my school, there's public castle in your school, there's James, there's each. Everybody is there. And we are not saying that we are going to pray when you have dinner. Dining, morning assembly, human parties, they are school functions. You have to be there. But all we are saying is that if the Muslims are praying after school, after siesta at 6 p.m. when there is nothing to be done, allow them to pray. If the Christians are meeting, if person is meeting at 6 p.m. when there's nothing to be done, they have for just 20 minutes, allow them to meet. It doesn't take anything away from the school. The school can run, the school will function, and that's all. The school not being done.
You see why we're having all this? The reason we are having all of this discussion is because a group of people who identify as Muslims with their own fundamental human rights have decided that while entering an institution that has its own rights, want to, in exercise of their rights, sort of overlook the unique identity of this institution, which is the reason I keep making the point that, you see, nobody is comparing you.
And you are saying, why Wesley Girls? Why would you? Why are you not copying all the other schools? Wesley Girls is not a constituent school, but the fact that they have all things in similar. That's not. I attended St. James Seminary Senior High School. I hear that they St. James Seminary Senior High School. It is not just a Catholic school. It's a seminary senior high school where seminarians who are going to become Catholic priests are trained. You don't go to such a school and say that I am a Muslim, so by the seminary is different from the school. There are two different things. John Seminary, St. Hubert, there are two different things. So that's what I'm saying, that it is the school, it is one school. And the fact it has the name of the school, I'm giving the name of the school, and that is its identity. You don't come to the school and say that I'm a Muslim, and because I'm a Muslim, when it is time, my school, every Saturday we all go to the chapel. Every morning you go to the chapel. You can't also go to Can I land? You don't go to the school and say, when we are going for morning mass, you say that this is the time for me to pray as a Muslim, and you sneak out. No. So if you know that, you know for a fact that is a seminary senior high school. Don't go there if you cannot. So I think
Our balanced question for the day: do you see a reason in the other side views? Do you see a reason in the other side views?
As a Muslim, I understand the importance of establishing a relationship with God and striving to maintain that relationship. I see that the conversation on the other side has been an attempt to protect what appears to be those foundations that are embedded in the Christian faith. I do not, on the face of it, have a problem with it, because as a Muslim, I would want to ensure that I comply with all the 5 pillars of Islam. However, the environment requires certain conditions so that everybody can exist. I make the point that Ghana, as it did not previously exist, it took a lot of effort from our communal masses to put us in this administrative setup. On that basis, there has been a requirement that we stay united, because all the people from the northern part of the country, those from the south, those from the middle belt, those along the coast, have had to come together to identify as one gang, and that has been the message that Kwame Nkrumah has preached. I think the conversation should be, at the end of the day, how we can all exist, not because I am this and I have to be different, you are this, you have to stay different, and you can't bring this into my space. I don't think that's what it's about. And the Constitution actually ensures that we all become one people.
I think I see reason, and the only reason is because of the fear of losing the identity. That losing the identity, I want to put it in a particular context, that they fear that it may not be called a mission school anymore, or the Methodism will be taken, or the Wesleyan faith will be taken away from the school. However, that is not the point that we are all making. The point we are making is you have to agree to disagree. And agreeing to disagree means that agreeing that yes, your Methodist faith will be practiced in the school, but disagreeing that it's not going to be absolute. It means that you have to accommodate the other religions, the other religious sects that are coming in. And mind you, as I said there from the beginning, the others that are believing are not just Methodists. They are other people from other religions. Today we speak of people from different. When we go to school, we are so entitled and we brag about our old students and all of that. They are not just Methodists or Catholics or Anglicans. They are from different sects.
I don't agree with the other side, and it's just because I hold a very secular view on how a state should be. And be it an Islamic school, a Christian school, one by any other religion, I believe that our state is young, and for governance purposes, it's important for us to learn how to live together. And I think the best place that a society can learn to live together is, in our society, is the boarding house, because then we get to live with them, we learn with them, we perform goals with them. I mean, it's nice when you go to Intercall as an Infanspin boys, the Adisadel boys want to beat you up, but you are there with your Infanspin boys, and then you are all striving and trying to protect yourselves and all. And in that moment, nobody cares if the next person to them is an Asante, is from a poor home, is intelligent, or this. the senior high school system, the boarding system, is set up in a way that gives us our first idea of how the Ghanaian society can and should be. So I hold that no matter the school that it is, if it's an Islamic school that's not allowing Christians, if it's a Christian school that's not allowing Muslims, if it's a traditional school that's not allowing any other, I think the state must put an immediate stop to that.
Yeah, I see some, I mean, I agree with some aspects of what the other side. And what is it? It is the fact that each of these schools, I mean, the students in each of these schools, in question, the Muslims, just have their rights to practice whatever religion they have to practice. And I think the whole point is not about the school trying to infringe on those rights. It is basically simple that this is the identity of the school. And its religious beliefs and practices and traditions are part of what have made the school that attractive for other people from all backgrounds to come. Allowing Muslims to wear hijab would mean that they would have to allow all other people to practice whatever they believe in. And that, over time, will be distorting the genuine identity of the school. And to end with this, I dare say, it's maybe a controversial statement to make, but I dare say that if we are comparing religions, Christianity is the last religion to ever be discriminatory and intolerant. You can check all over the world. Countries where Christians are the majority, there's religious tolerance. Countries where Muslims are the majority, there is definitely religious intolerance. That is a controversial statement, but I think that is the truth of it. Thank you.
So I would also like to say that I understand where they are coming from, in that in a pluralistic society like Ghana's, concerns about religious rights and the rights of minorities are legitimate. And I am also of the view that no one should be humiliated or no one should be denied of their right to education just because of their religion or the practice of their religion. I understand and I agree perfectly. And I also agree that for Wesley Girls, for instance, what they can do is that the time that clubs and societies are meeting, they can allow Muslims to also meet. But you see, what I understand is that sometimes some of these secondary schools allow some of these things and there are abuses and excesses. Now you have some groups, and I want to always take this conversation away from Muslim Christian. You have some groups meeting in the night, praying, doing all sorts of things. So to prevent all that, let's just stop everything. Let's just have one service, and let's have uniformity and equality. And I think that the mindset behind what it is good. I think there should be dialogue. The way to resolve this matter is not going to court, with all due respect to Shafiq Osman. I think the authorities and leading members of society, and I agree with something I heard Honorable Yusuf Husseini say. He made an excellent submission, and I think it was on News File or the program. There should be dialogue. And with dialogue, I feel like it happened with PENSA in my alma mater. Some of these issues can be resolved. Thank you.
Okay, so an institution where all religious practices are accepted is feasible. Okay, that's what I believe. But then, if an institution has a specific identity or a specific religious norms or ethics that they strictly adhere to, and you have any other idea or religious identity you conform with, knowing this and entering into that university or that institution, I believe that you should be free to practice whatever you still identify with. But then, whatever the institution allows for or calls for or it enforces, being in that institution, you should also follow such rules and regulations. The idea of let everyone practice his or her religion, or let everyone do whatever he wants. It's a really absurd idea. Okay, because as there are differences in religions, there will be conflicting ideas or conflicting practices that will be found in each religion. And so such a harmony cannot coexist. It will only result into chaos. So I believe that if an institution does not have a specific identity, then every religious identity can be conformed into the state ideal. So,
I think that what the conversation really is about is the fact that some people are failing to recognize the rights of other people to practice their religion. If Wesley Girls can do this, why can't the Muslims? The school is an environment with diverse people, and so there need to be a balance, and I think that is where we missed out, especially on the other side. They did not tell us how we work together.
I disagreed with some of the things they said. I felt some of their positions were a bit extreme and impractical. I'm of the view that to allow all religions to practice to whatever the extent they want in all institutions is not possible. Because in a secondary school, you must ensure uniformity, you must ensure equality, and you must ensure that the system runs smoothly. And for that to happen, you cannot accommodate equally all religions. That's basically not possible.
The shocker was the fact that I saw two Christians speaking in favor of the Islamic girls who were pushing for their rights, yes, which is true, it is their right. And then the whole point of discussion is pushing it to also go against the right of the school to maintain its identity as a Wesleyan school. My whole point has always been that even though that you cannot follow the practices of the Wesleyan school, just don't attend the school.
Some of my panelists made some comments which I did not find appealing, or I did not find very nice in this conversation. But then again, they could not give like reasonability, and it was evident in the fact that there was a particular prompt, I think the second prompt, and they actually joined us, and they don't seem to understand that the argument we are making is the senior high schools can still stand, they can still run their system in a very regimented way, and still people can obey, or people can practice their faith, and then nothing is going to happen. Instead of coming up with reasons why it's not plausible, we should begin as a society to ask ourselves to think beyond what we have in front of us. Let's be able to imagine a better society, always find ways whereby people who are minority can also live in their society. Thank you.
I think during the conversation, we all recognize the fact that Thomas Swanson alluded to the point we've been making all along. Yes, all other schools within the metropolis have the weekend, and therefore Wesley Girls is no different. They should just copy it, and we're not saying that they should be praying, or they should be fasting, or they should be giving special treatments. However, they should be allowed to do whatever they want to do. They should be allowed to pray during times that are free for students. For example,
each school has the ability to facilitate its religious beliefs, but then when you find yourself in such an institution, you have no right to kind of oppose the school's traditional values. And if the school is to uphold those values, it's not an infringement of rights to anyone. Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Follow our social media platforms at Banta Space for updates and all show related info. See you next time.